Welcome, everybody, to our webinar on young Africans seizing opportunities in the technology sector. My name is Gabriela, and I'm part of the Ashoka team that works on Future Forward Innovations for Youth Employment. Thank you so much for joining us today, wherever you're joining in from, whether it be in the continent or anywhere else across the world. This initiative is a partnership between Ashoka and the MasterCard Foundation, and we identify and support change makers and social entrepreneurs creating innovative solutions for youth employment in sub-Saharan Africa. This initiative also convenes a wide community of Africans such as yourself who help spread solutions to youth unemployment in Africa to shift the conversation from problems to solutions. Today kicks off our new series of webinars focused on how young Africans are seizing and seek sectors. Specifically, today we'll talk about technology. Across Africa, as in the rest of the world, in the workplace calls for a faster, more technology-savvy workforce. This is most relevant to young people. There are many opportunities arising in innovation across the continent. The key question we're asking today is, how are young people positioned to seize these exciting panel who will discuss these experiences of young people and how they themselves are leading solutions that are to young people. We also have young people to chime in their own experiences, how they've been able to take. We'll discuss solar energy and sustainable energy technologies, robotics, and even ICT. Past webinars, we invite you to engage webinar that's been put on by Future Forward Initiative. The hashtag is Africa Youth FWD. That's Africa Youth FWD. We'd love to hear your comments on the questions that are being asked as the panel will be. Please feel free to ask questions as well. We'll try to weave them as much as we can. Before we get started, we wanted to remind you of the many ways you'd be able to stay informed about innovations for youth employment in Africa. More specifically, we have our website that you can go to, which I'd be able to give you the URL for, which is changemakers.com/futureforward. That's changemakers.com/futureforward. Okay, so let's just get started now. We have this exciting panelist group, and so I'm going to turn it over right to them to each introduce themselves and then to tell us how they are making impact around deployment opportunities and technology within their communities. Abu, could you take it from here? Hold on, Abu, I'm going to unmute you, or if you could unmute yourself.
There. Sorry, I forgot to unmute. My name is Abu Musuza. I'm from Uganda, and that's where we are based in Kampala. I founded Village Energy Limited, and at Village Energy, what we're doing is basically we're working on trying two problems simultaneously, although that wasn't really the conscious. Essentially a solar company, but we basically came across the issue of a lack of after-sales services in the solar industry, which is really restricting the adoption of solar technologies because people are not getting repairs and simple parts for their broken solar systems, and that prevents all the others within the communities from adopting these technologies. On the other hand, there's the issue of youth unemployment or youth underemployment. There are a lot of young people in rural areas, deep rural areas, who are self-trained or vocationally trained electricians, repairing radios, phones, doing simple electrical jobs, who have the skills that can be harnessed to basically address this problem and build sustainable infrastructure that will allow solar technologies to be scaled very well. So what we do is we recruit them, take them through a 3-day training in solar technologies, and then give them an identity by rebranding their radio and phone shacks. In the case of those that didn't have a radio and phone shack, then we basically get a space for them where they can start their solar repair shops. So we give them the village energy identity, and then let the communities know that they're here to repair solar systems. They're here to repair solar systems, um, and basically the communities should come to them. So we do this using a solar camp, which is borrowed from the medical camp, where we basically provide open source fixing of solar solutions. We call on people over the radio, and then after 3 days when we leave, that youth shop is the go-to shop. So we also help them make sure that they get revenues through phone charging, based in communities that increases traffic to their shops, but also starts to make them money quickly. So basically, we are harnessing these two problems and basically playing off of one issue and helping that to build a solution for the other.
That's really exciting, Abu, especially in that you're providing these services for people to take up solar energy, where young people are coming in potentially with different skill sets that they can upgrade into the 21st century. So speaking on that, Sammy, you are also a part of Village Energy. You're a young person who's a leader within Village Energy. Could you please share introduce yourself and what your role is currently at Village Energy?
Okay. I'm also a young person. That's why I like dealing with young people. I find it much easier. But however, I'm much more experienced than them. So I basically have a vast knowledge of solar technology. So what I do, I get them around in a workshop, like when we organize workshops, through a very intense training, and at the end of the training we give them certificates. So this training is to help them be able to solve problems that are in their villages, okay? Because people in the villages are not so much exposed to this kind of technology, and you find that sometimes they need to come to town, which is very expensive to come to town. So what we do basically is to train them so that they can help out their villages without being able to go through the inconvenience of traveling from villages to towns to get solar systems and then take them back. Okay, so and maybe the training goes through even marketing itself, because they are okay with installations. They can give them solar, but and that's where we come in, because they need to make the money. Okay. To talk about my background, I worked with I've worked with Village Energy since 2013. I was a student working with intern professors, that was Madame Paula. I started with Makerere University and got a Bachelor of Science degree in science. I did a training in solar technology, and from then on, when I was doing my internship, I was introduced to Mr. Abu, who took me up immediately after my studies. I think that's all.
Great, and now you're one of the leaders who's helping other young people and be able to be a part of a new technology. Sammy, Jimmy, are you with us? If you could unmute. I'd like for you to introduce yourself, Jimmy, and also share with us sort of how you have been a part of a co-working space in Senegal that was founded by Ashoka Fellow Kareem Sai, and how that has played a role in your work around ICT.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy Maku and I'm the manager at Dev Engine Labs, a mobile app startup. Uh, what we do at Dev Engine Labs is we help companies with their mobile strategy. When they want to go mobile, we help them build their mobile apps, help them on how they can monetize what they are doing. So that's what we do on the mobile part. At the same time, we used to do a lot of training. So, for example, we used to train young developers for Microsoft. So we are involved in a program called Dev Academy, and the goal is to empower young people who want to learn programming and be able to find a job later. So we used to train them for 6 months every session, and the goal is to help them learn the basics of mobile programming and be able to build their own apps or be part of a company. Also, we are based in Labs, Senegal, actually in Dakar, and Joko Labs is a co-working space founded by Ashoka fellow named Currency. And also about the training is free of charge for people we use to train. It's sponsored by Microsoft. So the Central and Africa headquarters is based in Senegal, and they contact us to train the people. So we work with them, but everyone is who choose to assist our training is free of charge. The training is, and also at Choco Labs, we are a part of an entrepreneur community. And for a startup like us, being at Choco Labs, help us help us meet. We met a lot of entrepreneurs and coming from different fields, and we find also a way to collaborate on interesting projects for the community in Senegal here. So basically, I think that's that's what we do at Dev Engine Labs.
That's quite a lot that you described. I mean, it's really cool that you development within this co-working. Also, you collaborate with Microsoft to be able to provide these trainings. And you said the trainings for new developers around ICT are free. So that's quite a lot. We'll get more into that as we continue. Introduce yourself and share where you're from and how you're making impact around youth employment using technology. And unmute yourself first, please. Solomon, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, there's a bit of an issue. Can you hear me?
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
All right, excellent. My name is Solomon King Benge, and I am the founder of Fundabots. Fundabots is a non-profit based in Uganda. We basically are trying to change the status quo of education in Uganda, and you know, across Africa. The biggest challenge that we're trying to intervene is the fact that most of our education is very theoretical, and by the time students graduate from both university and high school, they haven't learned a lot of practical science skills. So Fundabots uses robots as an education tool. We teach kids how to build robots, but during the process of building robots, we are also teaching them a whole lot of skills in there. So the journey and the process of building that robot involves things like learning about electrical engineering, learning computer programming, learning mechanical engineering, and then soft skills like team leadership, project management, and we are also trying to introduce an entrepreneurship aspect to this. So we are basically trying to do three things, and the first is we're trying to have students understand the curriculum better by basically linking the training we are doing with the robots to the curriculum material. For example, if you are if the students are tasked with creating a small circuit to make the robot sense something, then we show how that is linked to what they're studying in the classroom. Maybe it's something to do with resistors in a circuit or transistors. And then further along the path, we are introducing them to tools that will affect how they approach and build their careers. So what happens is the tools that we're using are very modern tools. They're tools that are being used by actual engineers around the world, and we are basically introducing the kids to this technology at a very early age. For example, right now we have a class of 6 to 12-year-olds who are learning how to design electronic circuits using the exact same circuits that are being used by engineers around the world. And then ultimately, we want to inspire these students to be community change makers. The way we are doing this is encouraging them to use the tools and the technologies that they have learned while building these robots, to explore them as tools and technologies that can change the world around them. As an example, we have a group of students right now who are working on automated irrigation systems and who are working on alternative energy solutions for homes and farms. We also have students who are working on health solutions. So what we're trying to do is tie the pipeline of tie the ecosystem of education, education, career development, and business development, such that these students are exposed to a set of tools and knowledge that will allow them to be more successful in life. Our program is primarily based in high schools, but we are beginning to pay more attention to primary schools because we're getting quite a bit of requests from primary schools. So now we have classes for students who are as young as 6 years old and as old as 18-year-olds. And then beyond that, we have an internship program that basically accepts students who are outside of the classroom. And what happens is the students join us. Because they are technically at a more advanced level, maybe they're university students, they have a better and faster grasp of some of the tools. And it's actually important for us because even at the university level, the students are not getting the kind of knowledge that they should be getting, especially from the practical perspective. So them joining us as interns ensures that they have access to the same skills and technologies. Additionally, okay, so the way the program works is we have students, we have an outreach program where we go to schools and train schools and set up robotics clubs in schools. And then we have a center, sort of like what we call the Fundi space. It's like a mixture of a maker space and a fab lab, where students who we now call Fundis spend time here developing products for the market. How this has a financial implication on the lives of the students. One, we are basically allowing them, we are basically giving them skills that they would ordinarily not find anywhere else, skills and resources, because the kind of tools that you need to develop an electronic or a hardware product are very scarce. They're very scarce, they're very expensive. So having a place where you can access this information at pretty much no cost is already changing their lives in one way or another. Secondly, the skills that they're using can actually be employable. For example, if Abu needed engineers from Fundabots, he would have a higher chance of getting people who have had a lot more experience with electronics and repairing stuff, and he would have a shorter learning curve. But also, more importantly, these people would be immediately qualified to fix stuff, even though they have no formal education. And then finally, we like to think about our program or our intervention as a solution waiting for a problem. There is a lot that can be done with hardware and software engineering, but only if we can show the possibilities. So just by introducing someone to the process of sensing obstacles in an environment, they can immediately look at a solution where they say, what if I converted this into something that can sense intruders in a house? And then that becomes a viable, marketable product. So that's pretty much Fundabots in a nutshell.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Solomon. It's quite exciting. I mean, you're turning 6-year-olds or 10-year-olds into robotics engineers, right? And finding a way for them to learn skills, but also sort of be innovators that have products that come out and that might be a source of financial sustainability for them in the long run. So that's really exciting. We'll dive more into that as we go along. Morimu, please go ahead and introduce yourself and share with us around youth employment using technology.
Great. So my name is Werimu Kagondu. I work with the Rockefeller Foundation. We are a global philanthropy, US-based. We have had work in Africa from the very beginning of our existence, almost for 100 years. And I work in our Africa office, which is in Kenya, which has been here for about 50 years. So we have a long footprint in Africa as a foundation. At the foundation, I work on an initiative called Digital Jobs Africa. This is an initiative which was formed as a way of trying to tackle or address the challenge of youth unemployment in Africa. The initiative is 7 years. It's based in 6 African countries, and these countries are Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Egypt, and Morocco. And the goal of the initiative is really to connect what we call high potential but disadvantaged youth. So highly talented young people, but who come from a social or economic background of disadvantage and therefore face additional hurdles to accessing jobs. And the thing that our initiative does is to work with a group of partners to try and connect these young people to jobs in the digital economy. We do this primarily. The first is by identifying organizations that have a track record of training young people and providing them with the skills and the talents that they need to connect to jobs or to entrepreneurship opportunities. The second way in which we work is on the demand side, if you will. So reaching out to employers and corporates and getting them to embrace a more inclusive hiring agenda. So to build a movement around this idea that you can be more inclusive in your hiring, you can reach out to a target population that would otherwise be excluded, and that this is not just a social benefit, but there's also a business case and a benefit to be made in that regard as well. And then the third way in which we work is to work with governments and other institutions to create an enabling environment that allows for the creation of jobs or supports young people to be better equipped to connect to jobs. And then finally, I will say that as an initiative, because we work in this IT-enabled or digital space, we are very intentional about looking for new opportunities that might create jobs, that might provide skills training on connection of young people that has an implication for our work. So we're very intentional about scanning for new opportunities, and this is why I'm very excited to be on the panel with this really great team, because I'm hearing a lot of very exciting initiatives. And just an example of what we believe in the foundation, which is the skill, the talent, and the potential of young people in Africa that just requires a little bit of support or connection for young people to really achieve their full potential.
Kind of the work that the Digital Jobs Initiative at Rockefeller is doing. We'll come back to it if once we have her back on. Okay, well, let's dive into the conversation. Thank you, everyone. There seems to be so much out there in the continent, energy and in ICT. What would you say are
Hi, Tega, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
here.
you timed out.
Can you hear me?
So yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you now. But what was the question? I completely missed the
Okay.
question.
Yeah, the question was, oh yeah, no problem. I think my internet turned off for a second there. So the question was, there's different technology spaces in the continent, in the technology sector, um, from them being a part of this new age of tech innovation in Africa. And are you guys there?
Yeah,
we
we're
are.
here, but you're breaking really badly. Tega, can you repeat the question, please?
So sorry about the internet connection, everybody. I'm trying to get back on the internet, but the question I was asking was, what are the hurdles for young people to seize opportunities into technology sector and be a part of innovation in the continent? And Solomon, if you could take that question.
Okay. I think there is a very interesting parallel that I see, and I think the primary issue for me really is, and I mean this is a bias because I work mostly with hardware. I think that there is a very strong bias towards software and application development, and there is no mirrored effort at that scale towards hardware development. And I think that if I think personally that not everyone has the skills or the should I say the fortitude for being a a software application developer, and I think that we need to have an equivalent effort towards developing opportunities for hardware, especially because when people think about technology in this internet and social media age, there is a very strong focus on the computers and the mobile phones and application development. I think we need to have an equivalent effort towards creating spaces and fab labs and maker spaces across the continent that will allow people to explore sort of, should I say, more hands-on technology, but more with the hardware focus. I think also that if we could get government interventions, I know it's a bit of a tough topic to always think about involving the public sector, but I think if we could get government intervention, all right, just to give you a very clear example, many people think that many youth think that agriculture is not an exciting area in which they should push their efforts or career goals. But if we showed them that there is a lot of room for technology and innovation in the agricultural space, then they could find something that works for them, as opposed to thinking that agriculture is mostly just about purely, going to the garden and grabbing a hoe and digging, the place. If we could find ways to involve technology in our day-to-day lives, I think that we would have we would see a bigger uptake in the opportunities that are available.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, Solomon. Actually, just to jump in there is an innovation in the continent where there are these gadgets that were created that could read the nutrient value of soil, so that helping farmers determine how they should be taking care of their plants and what kind of nutrients they need to be putting into the soil. So that point where you said, how do we live our daily lives and integrate technology into that and see the problems and challenges as opportunities for these new technologies. That's really powerful. So thanks for that.
Tega?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I just mention one?
Yeah, please go ahead, Abu.
For me, it's one of the more powerful things I have seen when it comes to technology, ironically, is identity. The fact that one of the big issues with young people is identity. They get to a point in their lives where they're trying to figure out what they're good at, who they really are, and this plays a lot in their ability to take advantage of opportunities. In our case at Village Energy, in a sector that I say is broken, and broken in the sense that there is no confidence among the market and among the consumers on adopting and using technologies, because most of the technologies that people spent a lot of money on lasted just a couple of months and they broke, and so for the market to trust again, the young people need to be attached to sort of identity in terms of a brand, in terms of in terms of being part of a movement that understands the space, that brings confidence back into the market. And so that's why for us, it's an issue of, you've got to basically give these young people an identity. You've got to make them part of a bigger group, a bigger brand that the community trusts, and that opens up markets.
Yeah,
Markets for
that's
them.
really interesting, Abu. In context of actually, there was this study that was done within Ashoka where we were trying to survey how social innovation is supported by technology, and one of the learnings from that report, that study, was that it's much more powerful to help young people gain a digital citizenship whereby their identities are influenced, how they see themselves and their capability to use technology as a part of their daily living, and how they're able to market that and make that a viable kind of value add. That was something definitely that was identified in that as well. So thanks for sharing that. Jimmy, did you have any thoughts? In our previous conversation, you had shared that talent was a very big question mark in the tech sector, specifically for young people. Could you speak a little bit more about that? And I know you have experience with training developers and whatnot for bigger corporations like Microsoft.
Yes, one of the main issue we face as a startup is it's hard for us to find good developers. So it's really hard to find talent in our area, and that's one of the reasons why we are involved in training developers with companies like Microsoft. So that's also one of the big issue many people are facing, because when you want to grow your team, you need to find people with whom you won't spend a lot of time training them, because as a startup, it's a cost. If you will have to train people for weeks or months, and later they can also leave you. So that's one of the main issue we are facing actually in our research.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Warimu, Rockefeller Foundation focuses a lot on skill building and connecting young people to opportunities through relationships with employers. Could you speak a little bit more about that, and what are the hurdles around that that young people face, and how would they be able to overcome them?
So I'll speak to that, but if I could just quickly respond to or join in the earlier conversation in terms of some of the challenges that young people are facing. I think a significant challenge is just access to information about the opportunities that exist. So for instance, on the skills development side, there's a myriad of options that are available to young people which are free, or maybe ostensibly free, because maybe you need to access the internet. Microsoft Youth Spark portal that's available in a number of countries in Africa. It has a really incredible reach, but not everybody knows about that. A number of initiatives provide trainings, skills development, mentorship support, but a lot of people, young people, just don't know about these opportunities. And I think, for instance, this panel is a case in point. I think we're all engaged in this space. I think we think of ourselves as well networked, but potentially, if it weren't for Ashoka, our paths may not have crossed. So I think the question of access to information is very large. And then just to build on the points that had been made earlier, access to networks, the kind of networks for mentorship, for support, for learning, for peer-to-peer support are very important. But I think it all starts with young people being availed as much as possible, just knowledge of the opportunities that do exist, because they are a myriad of opportunities. And then very quickly onto your point about connecting young people to employers, and I think the larger question there is really about the gap that exists, which we're all aware of, between a young person leaving school, whether it be high school or university, and the needs of what the employers are. So what we're learning from employers is that the challenge isn't so much on the skills, on the technical skill side. That is a challenge, but a number of employers are actually willing to invest in doing some of the technical skills training. A lot of the challenge that they're telling us is really on the soft skill side, but also I think something which is almost an intangible, which is a kind of a creativity, being a self-starter, thinking out of the box, being a problem solver. We can all agree across the continent and probably also in other parts of the world, our school systems don't always prepare us for that. In fact, in many ways, our school systems sometimes might hinder the development of those kinds of skills. And so I'm so excited to hear, for instance, about robotics in schools. I wish I had a program like that when I was going to school, but just to encourage young people to be creative, to be almost challenging the status quo, to be problem solvers. Those kinds of sort of intangible skills are what employers are saying to us. Yes, there's the technical skills, but there's also that sort of being self-motivated and a self-starter that they're looking for in young, maybe on the technical piece.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's interesting in terms of there are the technical skills that are very key, like the developers would need technical skills, like Jimmy mentioned, but also the soft skills are also really important. Abu and Sammy, it would be really interesting to hear your take on sort of the skill sets around solar technologies. And I know Village Energy sets up young people to be kind of micro entrepreneurs within that space, but also to have the technical skills. So if Sammy could touch on the training component of that a little bit, and then Abu, if you could share with us how you set them up to be contributors in the value chain, that would be great. You're on mute.
The training, pick it up.
Okay. First of all, the training, we first go through. We have to look for these technicians. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you, Sammy. Yes.
Yes. We go for. We have to look for these technicians. We go to those villages and sub-counties. So we go to the local officials. Those are like the local chairman, council people, and they help us identify people who can be trusted in the villages. So this is the first stage of recruiting. We get these names at least per sub-county. We get about 4 to 5 people, and then we have to choose one person of the 4 to 5 people. So they recommend for us about 4 to 5 people. Then we sit together with them, have a chat with them, and find out what they do, what they think about the idea, and then we have to grade who qualifies better based on our requirements. In most cases, we are looking for people who have some simple electrical background, some simple skills, because they are easily trained to grasp this idea properly. So when we are through with that part, we take them through a training. It's a 3-day training. The whole day, the entire day, we finance everything. We first of all teach them on how to install solar systems. From installation of solar systems, we teach them how to repair solar systems which are broken down, because they're interested in. So the fact that they're able to repair broken solar systems, they are going to be able to get the trust from people. Before they need to know how to repair them once they are broken. The communities are having problems with solar systems which are broken down. They purchase them at very high prices and they cannot be repaired at all. So the fact that these people are able to repair the solar systems, then people can trust them and buy from them the solar products. Now, from that point of teaching them how to repair solar systems, we introduce them to the business, what they need to do to capture the market, what they need to do in order to make as much money as possible. So Village Energy, basically, the training takes about 3 days. Then we go through the training with them every other day. So for example, if it takes like 2 weeks to do the training, then we have to keep on training them more and more on until when we are satisfied that they are completely able to stand on their own.
Tega, did you want me to add anything on that?
If you feel like there is anything to add, I think he touched on the business side of things as well. But you know, how young people are able to connect these skill sets specifically around towards financial growth for themselves.
Yeah, it's actually quite important that besides identity, young people, of course, one of the big things is incomes, earning. You know, how am I going to earn in order to stand on my own feet? So we have to build various income streams. The issue is you've got to capture their attention and keep it, you know, and keep them part of you know, of the industry. So we're building in things that make money faster, like phone charging, which is a huge thing in rural off-grid places. So they can provide a service which people otherwise may, in certain instances, have to travel, you know, kilometers to access. So if they can provide that phone charging, then that starts bringing money for them, you know, quite quickly, as the other parts of the business, such as, you know, new solar products, begins to pick. Importantly, our strategy is to make sure that they are earning, you know, like from day one, day two, from phone charging, so that, you know, that money keeps their interest, you know, as, you know, their whole business begins to pick traction.
Great, thank you, Abu. So it's interesting. A few of you touched on kind of the hands-on experience and the learning experience that young people are getting, like the Fundabot space, you know, where people are able to play with hardware and just kind of work on developing new technologies. Jimmy, you touched upon the co-working space. So curious about your thoughts on, you know, now that we've talked about the way our education system is not really preparing young people to be these innovators in tech space, what is the role of incubators and hubs that bring young people together to help them be creative, to help them kind of seize these opportunities? And even if they don't take the shape of incubator or hubs, the ability to bring young people together, how does that play a role in filling this gap? And Solomon, if you could speak to that.
Okay. So basically, I think spaces like incubators, hubs, and Fundispace. Basically, first of all, it's a very great way to bring people together. Just being in a collaborative environment where you can learn from someone else and have a more interactive learning experience, especially since a lot of the challenges that we face, most of the solutions we find are when we go online and look for discussion forums and, you know, hangouts like this. But if you're in a physical space with someone who can give you the knowledge that you need, I think that's something that can tremendously increase the rate at which someone grows. There is someone who mentioned that one of the things that employers complain the most about are things like soft skills. And I think that incubators are a very good learning space for that kind of challenge, because the incubators that I've been to have very interesting models where they have guest speakers, they have pitch sessions, they have speech training sessions, they have business training sessions, they have all sorts of interesting discussions. And I think a lot of this helps people develop confidence in speaking, in pitching, in leading teams, and it generally makes them more sociable. And the great thing about incubators, I don't know about the rest of the incubators, but for example, at our Fundi spaces, we are very open. So we do not care a lot about someone's background. We pretty much embrace anyone who's interested in the technology. So that means that we will have high school dropouts, we'll have primary school dropouts, and we'll have university students. And we try and make sure that everyone gets equal treatment and respect. And I think that's very important for building people's self-esteem, for helping them see what it's like to live and work in a different environment. And that kind of exposure is actually really integral for youth, especially those who come from less advantaged environments. Of course, the biggest role that these spaces play is just the fact that you can sit somewhere and focus on building something because you have all the tools. There are no distractions that you would have otherwise found from home. You don't have to dash out and look for something because all of it is right there, and there are people who are willing to give you the additional help and logistical assistance that you might need. And then I think one of the biggest and most important is just the sheer number of connections that people can make, because if, let's say, there are events happening at these spaces, if there are guest speakers, it's very easy for someone to make a very quick connection that can build up into something tremendous a few years down the road.
Great, thank you, Solomon. Are there principles? I mean, you kind of touched upon them, but would you be able to summarize kind of the principles that guide the Fundi space that you created?
It's something we're still working on, but I would say respect, collaboration, and pushing boundaries.
Okay, great. Yeah. The last part is really interesting, especially with how interconnected and how rapidly everything is moving in our world, and the lack of barriers probably allows for more innovation and more technology being created. Thanks for sharing that. Jimmy, I was curious to hear from your perspective as a member of Joko Labs, what you think the role of the collaborative space has been for you to think about technology innovations and for you to bring opportunities to young people through technology.
Okay, for us at Joko Labs, as Solomon said, here at Joko Lab, for example, the place is really cool for any young people if they have an idea and they want to share it with people. There is a lot of meetup that we host at Joko Labs. So young people, they can come, and if they don't have any knowledge about what they want to do, they can find experienced people who can guide them, and they can learn a lot of things, and they can also network with other people. And if also we have some events and we invite a speaker from I don't know, from Google, from Microsoft. So it's offer them a chance to meet with those kind of people, so they can know that okay, we want to make things of our own, and that's how people used to do it, and they have a chance to meet people who can be their mentor, for example. But I want to say that at Joko Labs is not an incubator. It's more like a thinking tank. Like other than co-working space, there is the entrepreneur community here. So it's not like an incubator. But I have to say something about incubator. Actually, in Africa, I don't know yet if incubators, they are having a lot of impact on the development of startups. When I say startups, I mean young people who want to start their business from scratch, because we don't have actually key metrics that can help us say that, okay, this is the right way to go for incubators, and because most of them, what they do, for example, in Francophone Africa, is that they can help people who already have a business and they want to have access to more markets. But what is important is how can they do to help people who are just starting and with great potential. And that's what lack in Francophone Africa. I don't know much about incubators in Kenya, Uganda, or South Africa, but that's the main issue. And unfortunately, people they don't know that. When I say people um, uh, people who used who are looking to help young entrepreneur, they don't have a chance to talk with them to know that what do they want from an incubator. So it's already one way. The incubator thinks that they can do something for the startup, but until now we don't have a right model. uh, we don't have a clear guidelines you can follow to the road of success. So that's a little bit tricky for now for startups to rely on incubator. So for me, that's one of the things we experience in Senegal here. So I think the next step for those incubators will be that, okay, if we want to help those young entrepreneurs, how can we also find good people with the skills who can really help entrepreneurs? Because as I said, there is not a clear way to run a business and to find success in Africa. So we need to find the right model. They need to find the right model. So that's what I want to say about the incubator. And also, I would like it would be great if people who used to help incubators do their job, if they can go and meet the starter, the young entrepreneurs. It will be great that don't rely on the reports from the incubators, because sometimes the reality is another thing. So when people are based in the US or in Europe, maybe they don't have the right information because they don't know really what's going on, because they just read what the incubators are saying. So we need also to give the voice to the young people so they can say really what they think about the incubators and how they want them which kind of help they need.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you're pretty much saying that young people need to drive what happens at incubators, and that's very true. One of our commentators on Twitter was saying also, you know, there is all this opportunity in technology, but it needs to be tied to the aspirations of young people. So there is that element of inspiring young people to get into technology, but also there is the element of being true to what their aspirations are as well. Okay, well, we're wrapping up. We're a bit over time, but I wanted to take a couple of minutes to give you each a very short kind of what's your message to young people around opportunities for technology. And if you could, you know, make it just one or two sentences, that would be a way we can close off here. Orimu, would you like to start?
Sure. If I have one message, it's just that there's probably not been a time when there's been more opportunity for a young person, particularly in Africa, to get engaged and get involved. I think technology is lowering barriers. It is also putting tools in the hands of young people that they wouldn't otherwise have had. And so what we see from our work is young people driving.
I think we lost Marimu. We'll have her back, and we'll go back to her. But Abu, are you there? Could you share your takeaway for young people?
I think for me, it's a little bit riding off what Werimu was saying, that really there's a huge opportunity in Africa. Whether you look in terms of all sorts of technologies, the phone sector has done it. We've leapfrogged from we didn't have to install an entire nation's network cables for telephones. We just jumped all the way into mobile phones, and that's the same with energy, and other ICTs and other technologies. We have a great opportunity to basically leapfrog, and take advantages of advances made in technologies in other continents, and basically just implement those here. So young people should figure out a way of connecting, into technologies, learn how to take them and use them beneficial to people around you. So that's basically my message.
Great, thank you. I think we still don't have Orimu, but Solomon, what is your message to young people, especially now that there is we all know that now that there is a robotics revolution happening.
Well, I think I'm a huge fan of bootstrapping, which basically means start with whatever resources that you have. A lot of young people in Africa and also around the world have this belief that you need to have a certain amount of money or a certain kind of status to start something. I think if we embrace the idea of bootstrapping more, basically using however little skills, money, and resources we have to get started, I think it's very easy to build a lot of momentum as you go along than waiting for that momentum to build up before you actually get started. So don't wait for handouts or help from whatever. Just try and get started with whatever little that you have. And then also, Werimo and Abu have mentioned a lot about opportunities. I think that the biggest opportunity that we have is just the sheer volume of information that we can access from the internet. My personal experience is I'm very self-taught, so there is pretty much everything that I've learned has been learned by just going online and just learning, just trying to figure out whatever it is that I don't know. There is a significant amount of information on the internet, and I think that if we became more proactive about finding that information and using it for the better good, or to build ourselves, we could actually find ourselves going a very long way.
That's really cool that you touched on that, Solomon, because actually one of the people on Twitter was saying, how does Solomon know how to build robots? So
well, through the internet, 100% self-taught.
That's really cool to know. Great, thank you. Warimu, I think we have you back. Did you want to finish the message you had for us?
Yes. I think the last thing that I will say, which I think is also quite unprecedented, is that young people across the continent now have the opportunities to connect to each other. And that wasn't always the case. And so what I think this is building is a movement that is so powerful because it's driven by young people creating solutions that are based on their own problems. So now a person in Zambia can connect to somebody in Ethiopia, can connect to somebody in Chad. This wasn't always the case. And so I think the opportunity for young Africans to sort of define their own future.
I think she's saying to define their own futures. I think we lost her again. Okay. Jimmy, would you like to chime in with your thoughts on opportunities for young people in technology?
Yes.
Your message for young people.
Yes,
and if you could turn on your video as well, that would be great.
Okay. Okay. My message for the young is that they need to take advantage of all those opportunities, and also I would like them to not wait for someone to help them, because as Solomon said, he learned robotics through on internet. So with internet we can learn a lot of things now, and one of the challenges will be that it will be to harness the technology and apply what our knowledge to our reality. So, for example, we don't need to spend our time trying to build a product that's not designed for Africa or that doesn't have enough potential in Africa. So what we need to do is, okay, we have all those opportunities. How can we make an impact on the continent? That's also something that's important. So looking for impact, how to use technology to improve people's lives, and at the same time make a lot of turn it to a business. So I think that's me what I would like to tell them, and also to have the hunger for knowledge and believe in themselves. And I think that things gonna be great for them. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for sharing those messages. It's really inspiring to hear about all these opportunities and the financial and economic gain that young people could have, but also the ability that they have to solve the problems in the continent using technology. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. And thanks to all our panelists for this really insightful conversation. This will be the end of the conversation on the webinar, but please stay tuned on the hashtag AfricaYouthForward. There is ongoing conversation on there still. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.